dear learners, I once again welcome you to this module titled Communication Skill, which is a part of the MOOC on Introduction to Functional English, following the efforts of the previous modules that we had taken under this MOOC that mainly focused on the definition, significance, types, channels, processes, network, methods, and barriers of communication. This particular module shall attempt to provide a more detailed study of the functional practices and communication skills in English. Such an effort of the module has been made to help you better understand your current abilities, identify areas for improvement, and work out ways to deal with challenges of speaking and listening in a free society. While the previous module attempted to highlight the basic concepts of communication and related issue, the main goal of this particular model shall be to help the learners acquire practical areas to improve their listening, speaking, and soft skills across different modes and channels of communication. In order to achieve this end, this module shall focus on a few objectives that we have targeted as the main area of study. First will be to understand the basic of speaking and listening skills with a detailed analysis role of the speaker and the listener individually in different sections. Second, to understand the different types of soft skill and how to enhance its usage in communication to gain more efficiency. Third, to introduce and study the various forms of communication in different modules and channels. Fourth, to discuss the benefits of the two most important qualities like assertiveness and social graces to enhance one's communication skill. So to begin with, learners, I will want to introduce the module with the most important factor, which is the speaking skill. Speaking is an act that occurs when a person prepares and delivers a talk to others, which can be done individually or in a group, but without getting interrupted by the flow of idea that is given by the speaker. While speaking may appear as a dreadful act for many engaged in the communication skill, it has in today's time been considered as an important and a more desirable attribute for all. Speaking skills are defined as those skills which allow us to communicate confidently and fluently. This gives us the ability to convey our information verbally and in a way that the listener can understand and be interested in. Speaking, therefore, my friends, is an interactive process where information is shared and, if necessary, acted upon or responded to by the listener. So it is important again to develop both speaking and listening skills in collaboration. This needs to be done so that communication can happen effectively. To develop our speaking skills, we first need to know the right words. Knowing your vocabulary is always going to be the starting point where development actually begins for communication. And this, my dear friends, begins as we are in our infant stage. And as we learn to describe the world around us and communicate our needs, vocabulary development shall help listeners to understand the meanings and pronunciation of words necessary for the exchange in conversation. In addition to this, the listener shall also need to develop their grammatical abilities, for they will help us to use and make correct and sensible sentences. So talking in the right way using vocabulary and grammar is where you will go correct in going ahead with the most effective mode of acquiring good communication skills. Grammar, therefore, helps us to convey information in a way that the listener will recognize and understand. To be able to make communication more engaging, fluency in tone and clarity in messages should be present, for it helps us in capturing words straight away for the listener. In fact, the ability to fluently speak further instills a sense of confidence in the speaker themselves. So, my friend, speaking the words that you intend to is important, but how you do it is even more important. The more fluent the listeners are in English, the more interesting, exciting, and insightful conversations they can have. And realizing these benefits of speaking skills as a means to express our communication, thoughts, and feelings, this module will attempt to motivate all the learners to garner the best qualities required to master this necessary skill. Speaking skills in general is a technique to give your intended message to the listener, which can be separated into two categories, that is, formal and informal speaking skills. And we can use both types of speaking skills in a variety of contexts throughout our life. Informal speaking skills are important for conversations with friends and family, helping us to form emotional connection, while formal speech, on the other hand, is necessary for workplaces, in presentations, or for conversations with people you don't know. Formal language is important as it helps us to make a good impression on people and communicate politely. Some key features that could help us to become better speakers are good organization of message, clarity in preparation, and comprehensive speech, well-structured presentation, confidence, and awareness. In addition to these traits, the speakers should not be monotonous but clear and audible to their listeners. They should resort to a normal paced speech delivery so each word of the message reaches the audience clear and straight. Most importantly, again, is also to make eye contact with the members of the audience. Do not talk to the walls, as they say, or the table, or take your notes and keep looking at them. In fact, look at the audience so that they feel more involved in the entire process of the communication. If you find it difficult to do so, what I would suggest, my dear learner, is to find a new, friendly, and encouraging face in the audience or in different parts of the audience if you can, and talk to them, which will make it appear that you're talking to the larger audience in whole. A good tip, I think you can use it in your life. Also, constantly you need to keep checking whether the audience is following you, because communication is bound to fail if it cannot engage your listeners. So make sure you talk at your audience. Talking at your audience comes across as talking down to them. So to engage the listeners, keep your talks short, simple, and with specific statements. Strive for a smooth transaction from one point to the next. Use visual support to illustrate and clarify difficult points that you see the listeners are not able to comprehend. Use visual effects or tools to provide more clarity in your presentation. However, all these attributes that we have mentioned in this particular part of the lecture, which comprises of how to enhance speaking skills, will fail if you do not have an enthusiastic and an interesting attitude. In order, therefore, to have a better capture of your audience, be slow, clear, and loud while delivering the conversations. Next, I would like to introduce listening skills to you all, my dear friends. Like speaking skills is seen as a pivotal part of communication, even listening is an essential skill. While it may be confused with hearing, listening requires not only the act of hearing but also making sense of what is heard. So, it is not a passive act. Listening, in fact, is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. To be able to do so effectively, it is often suggested that a good listener should constantly and actively pay attention, interpret, and remember what is heard. A good listener should concentrate on what the speaker is saying. A relationship of respect between the listener and the speaker is must to have a fulfilling and a wholesome communication. To achieve this, the listener must consciously omit out all possible distraction to increase their listening abilities. In fact, to enhance one's listening skill, making eye contact is extremely important, for it increases attention and consequently reduces chances of distraction. Alongside these attributes, a good listener should showcase effective and affirmative nods, gestures, and appropriate facial expressions. While displaying gestures, the listener, however, should not engage in destructive actions which could imply a sense of disinterest and disapproval of the listener to the speaker. Further, appropriate response, feedbacks, replies, suggestions, and questions should be provided by the listener to make it appear that he is involved in the communication process. And in order to fully grasp the intended message, this, my dear learner, becomes a must. In case of any confusion that you might feel that you are not understanding the message of the speaker, it is often advised, dear learners, that you should paraphrase your message into simple and different words so that you can cross-verify the content of the message that has been received by you, whether it's correct or not. Because if the message fails, the communication's entire process will go vague. However, the listener, while doing so, should be extremely careful to not frequently and unnecessarily interrupt the speaker. In fact, the listener should allow the speaker to complete his or her thought before responding, and never anticipate what the speaker is trying to tell, because when you do so, you come with blinders in mind, and as holding blinders in mind, it will never allow you to process many information that is going to be told by the speakers. In this sense, hearing, like I said, could be seen as a passive act, while listening is an active act in communication. The characteristics that is needed for a listener to generate a fuller understanding of the speaker's messages is that they should very carefully receive and understand, evaluate and interpret, and correctly respond to all the ideas and messages provided by the speaker. This is because such traits shall make conversations positive, clear, and specific. In fact, such an effort seems relevant, for it would allow us to recognize that each individual engaged in the communication process may have their own personality and perception, which may differ from each other. This allows us to have a respectful relationship with each other. The listeners should not have any prejudgments about the speaker for this matter, or assume that the speaker is going to provide us with some irrelevant and unimportant information. When you have such attitudes preconceived within you before the communication even starts, a communication, my dear friends, is bound to have or go into a failure. Listening is a key component to all effective communication to avoid errors between the individual, and hence enhance the rate of productivity, improvement of relationships, understanding, negotiation skills, and one's personality becomes a possibility. So, dear friends, remember these pointers while you are trying to practically incorporate the best elements and characteristics that needs to be found in a speaker and a listener as well. After this, I think it is very important that we, my friends, should understand what are soft skills. Soft skills is considered as one of the most relevant aspects of communication in today's world, where language is or communication is no longer limited to words and intended messages. Soft skills, in fact, can be defined as a non-technical skills that impact our communication. Unlike technical or hard skills, soft skills are not about language that one possesses, but the behavior that one displays in different situations. They are defined as skills that one needs to have better relationship with others, personality development, successful career, for they allow us to solve problems in personal and professional spaces. Soft skills can be identified as a collection of positive attributes and competencies that can improve work performances and productivity, enhance relationship, and make an individual more marketable in the workplace. Because today, if you are not market friendly, you will have to have a difficult and a complicated competition where everybody is behind each other. So friends, developing soft skills is a priority. Soft skills are a cluster of personality traits, social graces, communication, language, personal habits, friendliness, managing people, leadership qualities that helps you to better your relationship with others, and in the whole process allows you to feel more confident in yourself. Soft skills are essentially people skill and non-technical, intangible, personality-specific skills that determine one's strength as a leader, a good listener, an excellent negotiator, and a conflict mediator. So you will always, my dear friends, with good soft skills, be the savior of any dying situation in your professional and job spaces. These skills include effective communication, leadership, and teamwork skills, demonstrating problem-solving abilities, initiative, and motivational skills, displaying tendencies of honesty and strong work ethics from the very basis of soft skills. The development of these skills helps us to excel in life, as they, in one part, involve developing attitudes and attributes, and on the other part involves fine-tuning communication skills to express attitudes, ideas, and thoughts within us. A perfect integration of ideas and attitude with appropriate communication skills in oral, written, and non-verbal area is necessary to be successful in today's competitive world. As a part of this MOOC, we shall discuss the importance of soft skill and language in one forthcoming model, and therefore I will not go much in details regarding that. So, taking this as a point of break, we will now focus on a new topic of this particular model, my dear friends, which is oral communication. Oral communication in this particular model is been divided into two components, or you can say two parts. The first part being face-to-face oral communication. As noted in the previous module, communication occurs through different modes and channels. Of them all, the most commonly practiced is oral communication. Oral communication is communication by speaking through the use and mobility of one's oral organs. Oral communication can be done either through the face-to-face model or in absence of physical presence. While oral communication requires physical presence of the speaker and listener, it becomes more interpersonal. It brings in high level of understanding and transparency in communication. This is achieved as it takes place in a flexible setup. It is more spontaneous and quick without any delay, for all messages, responses are given to each other immediately. The key elements for effective oral communication are clear pronunciation, brevity, preciseness, conviction, logical sequence of words, appropriate word choices and vocabulary, avoiding phrases and cliches that are out of use. In the next module, we shall discuss oral communication in sufficient details. Therefore, I am now shifting to the next point, which is oral communication and soft skills. As oral communication includes physical mobility and use of oral organs, as I mentioned earlier, it is ultimately a combination of worded vocabulary. It therefore includes and requires practice of certain physical attributes and soft skills to actually make it a thorough success. Both in reality go hand in hand, and their combined usage often leads to effective communication. This is because it makes such combined methods of communication appear more useful and practical. It is effective in accurate delivery of messages. Soft skills in oral communications are related with insights, emotions, feeling, gut instincts, and common sense. Soft skills can be said to incorporate all aspects of generic skills that include the cognitive elements associated with non-academic skills. Soft skills are identified to be the most critical skills in the current global social and academic market. Soft skills, therefore, are very important in oral communication, and as they help us to handle interpersonal relationship, take appropriate decision, to create a good impression, garner professional development, and make communication henceforth more effective, accurate, and interesting. All in all, considering these attributes of soft skills as a part and parcel of the listening and learning skills set, we will now, my dear listeners, will want to move to a different type or mode of communication, which includes the verbal and the non-verbal mode. So, my dear friends, first we will like to start in this particular section with what I have categorized as verbal communication. Verbal communication refers to the production of spoken language to send an intentional message to a listener. Verbal communication is the use of sounds and words to express yourself, especially in contrast to using gestures or mannerisms that are non-verbal. Generally, verbal communication can be categorized into four main parts, namely sound, words, language, and speech. Speaking is an effective way of communicating and helps in expressing our emotion in words. Verbal communication is about language, both written and spoken. In general, verbal communication refers to the use of words, while non-verbal communication refers to a mode of communication that occurs through the means other than words, such as body language, gestures, and even silence. My dear friends, we generally neglect the role and the importance of silence in our entire experience of communication, but remember, they too sometimes can be golden. Like the common proverb says, silence is golden. Excellent verbal communication is therefore a key to maintaining successful business relationship. Effective communication henceforth causes productivity to increase, errors to decrease, and operations to run smoother. So your characteristics as a performing person in the marketplace will come in more demand. In fact, a few more other characteristics that you can incorporate to enhance your verbal communications are assertiveness, adaptability, and a good attitude towards the feedback system. Verbal communication also includes asking follow-up questions or pulling the presenters aside and giving them feedbacks when you feel the necessity has come, because it will thereafter allow you to start what we call the chain of necessary social networking. Realizing this benefit, it is often suggested that an active practice makes perfect in verbal communication. For this, active listening, clarity, and consciousness, along with confidence, empathy, friendliness, open-mindedness, and giving and soliciting feedback while being respectful, are key features to effective verbal communication. After this, my dear friends, I would like to go to the non-verbal communication section, which is going to tell us that it is associated with the transfer of information through the use of body language, such as eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, and more. For example, smiling when you meet somebody conveys an attitude of friendliness, acceptance, and openness. Everybody uses non-verbal communication all the time, whether they are aware of it or not. Nonverbal communication is dependent on seeing and analyzing physical movement as opposed to verbal communication, or the use of language to transfer information through written text, speaking, or sign language. Nonverbal communication is important because it gives us valuable information about a situation, including how a person might be feeling, how somebody receives information, and how to approach a person or a group of people. Paying attention to and developing the skills to read nonverbal communication is a valuable skill that you can leverage at every stage of your career, for it can help you to become more effective in both your personal and professional spaces. Nonverbal communication includes hand gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, touch, spatial distance, body language, and postures, for they provide additional cues to the worded message. In addition to these varied types of nonverbal communication, there is also the play of paralanguage in communication. Paralanguage includes the non-language elements of speech, such as talking speed, pitch, intonation, volume, and many more other aspects. Nonverbal communication is therefore a reflection of your personality. In this regard, non-verbal communication, my dear friends, should be considered as an essential part of having an excellent communication skill set. Here, I hope you have been able to understand and engage in the different kinds and modes of communication that we have discussed, because now the next section that I will be dealing in this module is going to be telephone communication. Telephone communication, you have to understand, my dear friends, is a necessary type of communication whose rate of usability and accessibility is increasing at a tremendous rate. This is because as society has undergone several upgradations, technology has become the most revolutionary. Following the increased uses and involvement of telephone with the onset of mobile phone, we are constantly exposed to formal as well as informal communication through the mobile as a device, which has in the contemporary society become a popular medium of communication. A telephone conversation is quite simply any conversation that occurs over a telephonic network using a wired telephone or a wireless smartphone. Since telephone conversation comprises of a considerable chunk of our present day communication exchanges, it is therefore necessary, my dear friends, to take them seriously regardless of whether a telephone call is formal or informal. In either of the cases, you cannot see your audience. Instead, you only get to hear them. So, voice, speaking style, clarity, choice of words, mannerism, and tone plays the most vital role for making a good communication via telephone. I think now we, while coming to the end of the module, should discuss two major characteristics that can actually help any sort of communication to become more engaging and more respectful. One of the most important factors that I have tried to highlight in the module is assertiveness. Being assertive means expressing your thoughts, opinion, feelings, attitudes, and rights in an open and honest way. When you're assertive, you stand up for yourself while also respecting others. In today's world where everything has become more competitive, my dear friends, respecting others might be important, but having self-respect becomes even more important, because when you have the capacity to respect yourself, you allow others to do the same with you. In communication, assertiveness involves balancing what you need with being respectful of the needs and rights of your co-workers, subordinates, and supervisor. There are three styles of communication that people use: passive, assertive, and aggressive. While passivity and aggression have often been considered as bad characteristics in communication, Assertiveness allows us to better express ourselves with other people. To maintain the trait of assertiveness in communication, you will need to be respectful yet confident. Be aware of your body language, make direct eye contact, but soften your eyes when you are not challenging. Keep your tone of your voice even and normal while also being sure not to raise the volume of your voice when you feel the audience is getting threatened. Keep your physical stance open, uncross your arms and legs. This will make the audience feel more welcomed to your communication. Use statements starting with I or involving eyes to address the issues so the focus stays on you. Be specific and direct in making your point. These tendencies will not only enhance your personality and confidence but will also improve your impression among others. While we see that assertiveness is a key feature, another feature that can immensely help you, my dear learners, is social graces. Social graces are a set of skill of polite and civil manners required for dealing with people and society. While communication may often be limited into a balanced combination of listening, speaking and soft skills, social graces have actually been a silent part of the process. In fact, many consider that it is social grace that makes the communication more successful and interesting. Social graces are directly related to one's culture, upbringing and education. So it is a very personal exercise and an act that you will have to perform, my dear friends. Therefore, I say that you have to be aware of what is happening in society and how your co-workers and your friends are feeling. The meaning of social grace is the ethical sound set behaviors that provides a comfortable space for people to converse openly without any apprehension. Many of this behavior can be learned through experience with oneself, through education, but most importantly, my dear learners, with others, within their culture, while being respectful and polite to them. Social graces help build strong relationship with others. They further provide comfortable experiences for people who are exchanging information, which often results to newer and more respectful collaboration. This further increases their productivity and problem-solving capacity. Respect, politeness, and formality promote a comfortable environment that is generated by what we can say as social graces. Kindness and humility are two other values that can be displayed prominently to be socially accepted. All of which I feel, my dear friends, should be kept in consideration while communicating with yourself and most importantly with others in both personal and professional spaces. With all this said and done in this module, I would like to conclude the module. So, as we have come to the end of this module, we can say that there has been a lot that has been practically taught on how to actually enhance the communication skills. While the previous MOOC modules on communication skill were theoretically relevant, in this module, we mostly discussed the practical ideas, ways and methods to improve your communication skills. By following the most important features discussed in this module and finding realistic opportunities to practice communication skills with friends, family and colleagues over time could help us feel more comfortable and confident with embracing and engaging with effective communication styles. Keeping this in consideration, the module attempted to provide a varied option of communications that are necessary or relevant in the 21st century. For this, necessary practical exercise tools and suggestions have been provided throughout the model. Extending the efforts of this model, the next model shall focus on oral communication and effective communication. With this being said, we'll see you in the next model. Until then, goodbye.